The movie begins in 1995 Berlin, where a well-dressed man named Michael Berg is preparing breakfast for a young brunette woman named Bridget whom has stayed the night with him. The two part awkwardly, and as Michael watches a Berlin S-Bahn pass by outside. The film flashes back to another tram in early 1958 Neustadt, West Germany during a rainy winter day. An unhappy-looking teenage Michael gets off but wanders around the streets afterwards, finally pausing in the entryway of a nearby apartment building where he starts to vomit. Hanna Schmitz, the tram conductor, comes in and assists him in returning home. Michael is diagnosed with scarlet fever and must rest at home for the next 3 months. All Michael can do is examine his stamps and bide his time. After he recovers as the spring season arrives, he returns to the apartment building to deliver. Michael returns to her every day after school, rejecting the clear interest of girls his own age, such as The Odyssey, The Lady with the Dog, and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. He sells his stamp collection so they can go on a bicycling tour in the countryside. When Hanna is promoted by the tram company to a better paying position and an office job, she becomes unsettled. When Michael arrives at her apartment for one of their trysts, she suddenly snaps at him when he tries to read her Chekhov's The Lady with the Dog. They make love one last time and she then moves away without telling him where she is going. Michael is heartbroken. 8 years later in 1966, Michael is now age 23 and attends Heidelberg Law School. As part of a special seminar taught by Professor Roll, a concentration camp survivor, he observes a trial of several women who were accused of letting 300 Jewish women die in a burning church, when they were SS guards on the death marches following the 1944 evacuation of Auschwitz concentration camp. Michael is stunned to see that Hanna is one of the defendants. He visits a former camp himself to try to come to terms with this. The trial divides the seminar, with one student angrily saying there is nothing to be learned from it other than that evil acts occurred. He tells Roll that the older generation of Germans should kill themselves for their failure to act then and now to stop the Holocaust. The key evidence is the testimony of Ilana Mather, a young Jewish woman who has written a memoir about how she and her mother survived. When Hanna testifies, unlike her fellow defendants, she admits that she was aware the whole time that Auschwitz was an extermination camp. She also admits that all the SS guards, herself included, would randomly choose 10 prisoners each. These prisoners would then be executed to make way for the new prisoners that arrive so that overcrowding does not occur. In Hanna's case, she would choose the physically weak and less able-bodied prisoners to their deaths. She would also make the prisoners read to her. Every evening Hanna would randomly choose one female prisoner to read a book to her in her office before taking them back to their cell, as she takes great enjoyment in being read to. Every prisoner that would read books to Hanna would be later killed. Further charges against Hanna whilst an SS guard also included 300 counts of murder brought about when an aerial bombing raid by the Allied forces accidentally hit a church where the prisoners were sleeping for the night. The church's roof collapsed and a fire ensued. The prisoners tried to escape the burning church, however all exits were locked. The SS guards, Hanna included, had the power to unlock the exits to let the prisoners escape, but they did not. Only 2 prisoners survived. Hanna strongly denies that she personally authorized a report to lock the church exit doors, preventing the prisoners to escape, despite pressure from the other defendants. When the prosecutor produces a document with Hanna's signature on it authorizing the church incident, she continues to deny the charges by claiming that someone forged her signature. However, when she is asked to provide a handwritten sample of her signature to compare it to the signature on the document, Hanna suddenly retracts her denials and admits to signing the document. In the courtroom audience, Michael then realizes Hanna's secret. She is illiterate and has made many of her life choices to conceal that. Even her choice to join the SS was made because of her desire to avoid a job promotion, meaning she would have had to reveal her illiteracy. Without being specific, Michael informs Roll that he has information favorable to one of the defendants, but is not sure what to do since the defendant herself wants to avoid disclosing this. Roll tells him that if he has learned nothing from the past, there is no point in having the seminar. If you have come this far in the video, please subscribe to this channel to never miss amazing content like this. Hanna receives a life sentence for her role in the church deaths, while the other defendants get prison terms of a few years. Michael soon graduates from the law school and gradually becomes a successful lawyer. He marries a young woman, named Martha, and together they have a daughter whom they name Julia. But Michael remains emotionally withdrawn. His marriage ends a few years later when Martha leaves him, and he becomes distant from his daughter. Rediscovering his books and notes from the time of his affair with Hanna, he re-establishes contact with her by reading some of those works into a tape recorder. He sends the cassettes and another tape recorder to her in prison. Eventually she uses these to teach herself to read the books themselves from the prison library, and eventually writes back to him. Michael does not write back or visit, but keeps sending audio tapes. In 1988, the prison's warden writes to him to seek his help in arranging for the aged Hanna after her forthcoming release on parole. He reluctantly agrees to sponsor Hanna. He finds an apartment and job for her, but when he visits her for the first time, 1 week before she is to be released, he is aloof to her. She tells him that before the trial, she never thought about what she did as a SS guard, but thinks about nothing else now. After he leaves, she commits suicide by hanging herself in her cell and leaves a note to Michael and a tea tin with cash in it. In her will, she asks Michael to give her life savings to the family of one of the prisoners at Auschwitz. Later, Michael travels to New York. He meets Alana and confesses his past relationship with Hanna to her. He tells her that Hanna was illiterate for most of her life, but that her suicide note told him to give both the cash, some money she had in a bank account, and the tea tin to Alana. After telling Michael there is nothing to be learned from the camps and that he should go to the theater if he is seeking catharsis, Michael suggests that he donate the money to an organization that combats adult illiteracy, preferably a Jewish one, and she agrees. Alana keeps the tea tin since it is similar to one she herself had owned before being sent to the camps, where it was taken from her to be melted down. In the present day of 1995, Michael reunites with his daughter, Julia, now age 21, who has just returned from a year in Paris. He admits his failings as a father and drives her to a church that he and Hanna had visited during their bicycle tour, nearly 40 years earlier. He shows her Hanna's grave and begins to tell her his and Hanna's story. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know in the comment section below which movie you want us to recap next. As always, until the next time.